are playing in a completely different way than they would in the massively long regular season. And I don't know. I think the take is a lot different too. I think the books are taking substantially more action. Some of our picks, if we think about throughout the year, you're talking about two teams that are totally out of contention. It just doesn't have a lot of public interest, but we don't care. We love that stuff. In a way, it actually makes the market a little softer. So I'm not particularly surprised that, it's a different. I know a lot of people who stop betting in the playoffs, who really kind of the regular season ends and the bulk of their action ends too.
Yeah. No, I love it. Is there any trends or anything you look at all in the postseason? Do you look like one of the things I look at during the regular seasons is like the home road record and the playoffs? I was watching the games. I'm like, wow, what a different dynamic when the crowd's really into it. They're starting their top, three pitchers, not their fourth and fifth. There's so many variables that I don't see in the regular season that I'm like, it just stands out to me.
Sure. Yeah. No, I do the same. The only thing that I could rely on is I don't know, see where the line's going after it first comes out. But even that's like, it doesn't have the same. It's harder to get the same edge. I feel like.
The one thing that stands out to me, I can tell you without even looking at analytics, I see every year from year to year in the playoffs that I did bet last night live, as I've noticed that the pitching's better and the unders seem to hit a lot higher. The over-unders are lower and the unders seem to do better in the playoffs than any other time during the baseball season. So I think next year, one of the things I should do, and we know people in our community that are big over-under bettors, right? I think I really need to focus on the over-under aspect more than the actual game line.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
It's a little ironic as you say that Philly just scored their 9th run, but whatever. Your point still stands.
Right. At the same time, Minnesota's down here. What's this 1-1? So 50-50?
Yeah.
No free lunch.
Well, let's get past baseball. Let's get into some more interesting things. I want to get to I like NFL. Chris likes hockey. That's your sport, isn't it, bro?
All right. Quick recap. NFL Week 5.
Let's talk about. Let's do. Let me pull up. Can you see the screen, Chris? That I'm sharing.
Go to 2, Tim.
I'm going to basically pull up let's pull up some days here. Let's go from September 7th through October, which would have been the 9th, which was Monday. Let's just do a quick peek of the analytics just for fun, right? Let's just kind of see we're in NHL. We're going to actually build a couple analytical models or gadgets so you can see some things there. Give me a second. So here's what we have after 5 weeks. Away teams is favorite, 55%. Plus 1.4 units, not really overly compelling after 5 weeks to be up 1.4 units. I can't say that's really a trend. Got a lot of 50%ers here. Away team is underdog, 21-21. Home team is favorite. Look at these, Brian. I mean, wow. I mean, we're talking about some freaking even results after 5 weeks. One thing I really used to look at a lot was the spreads, -1, -2, thinking that -1 and -2 was really not the favorite. Right now, -1 is 50-50. -2 is actually 2-1. That seems a little bit high to me. Let's see. Here's an interesting one. When a team goes to 10 and 10.5 point, there's only one game where I guess it was exactly 10 to 10.5 when it closed that we captured, shows 1. I don't know if my date range is right. Looks off a little bit. Let's see. +3 is hitting 8 and 3 at 73%. That +3 is that, because I always say, man, when you get to like -2.5, they're almost suckering you into betting the favorite, right? At 3 or 3.5 is where it gets interesting. But +3.5 is 0-8. That's another trend I love. I love the -3.5. I hate the -2.5. Look at that, +3.5.
That's huge.
I mean, I should say -3.5. Let me go back to the -3.5. -3 this year has not lost. Phenomenal. -2.5, which I hate. Actually, that some reason it's not capturing that. It must be -2. There's something off on the data slightly here, but the point of it is you can see the trends of the games it's pulling. I can click on these too. Actually, matter of fact, I'll do that just to kind of take this one step further. If I go to the -3.5 and click on this gadget to show this, you guys will see exactly the 8 games.
So, and if I could add a little thing, I'd like to see where the line opened at the games that were -3.5. I want to see if it was moved to make it more enticing to go on to the dog, or if it opened and went the other direction. You follow what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can make some models for analytics to do exactly that. I have some change of direction models, but it doesn't take the combination that you're talking about. I'm just going to run down here super quick. So it shows.
I think it'll show you here. Here's your open to. Oh no, those are all the same. I don't know if that's picking
These
it
are
up.
the games that when I clicked on the minus 3.5 for the 8-0, it pulls up the games at the bottom to show me which games down here actually won. So Atlanta was minus 3.5 covered, right? New England was, or sorry, Philadelphia was minus 3.5, barely covered by 1.5. So you can kind of see the games, see the results, and kind of reconcile what we're looking at. Let's see what else we had in here that's kind of stands out. Spreads at 5 and 5.5 or undefeated. 2-0 is not exactly a big sample size. +3 at 73%. Man, that +3 and minus 3.5. It's interesting. It's really interesting to me how -2.5, 3, and 3.5 vary so much. Let's get down here into some other things really quickly. Here's one you might like, Chris and Brian. No line movement, 6 and 9. That's on the favorites. When there's no line movement on the favorites, we're at 6 and 9 at 40%. If we're actually on the dogs with no line movement, they're hitting 60% at +2.3 units, a little bit more compelling. Reverse line movement, I cannot believe reverse line movement right now is 8 and 17 and 32%. I would expect that to be almost like the opposite at 66%. But I haven't really been betting reverse line movement a lot, but that's really interesting. I would not expect that. Forward line movement. But again, what percentage was the split when you got this, right? Was it 20% or 45%? I don't really do splits or I don't really call it reverse line movement if it's like, let's say 40 to 50%. I just don't feel like that's really a big enough percent to really see it's forcing the line in the wrong direction. You get to 20 to 30% of the split and you see it reverse backwards, then I can really see that the sharps are on it, right? But 45%, it's a little harder to see. But these are interesting metrics. Then we get into the splits, right? Look at the splits down here. Was there any split ranges? I usually like the 30 to 40. It's only at 40%. The 51 to 60, which I absolutely hate, is actually not doing too bad at 61% right now. 61 to 70%. This is basically falling to public. It's at 77%. It's bizarre to me. 71 to 80.
What's that?
61 to 70% of the split right now is at plus 6.1 units. 71 to 80. Basically,
Wow.
and then look at 81 and 90. I mean, honestly, I don't know what you guys think. I almost feel like the public's done pretty well the first 5 weeks. Thoughts?
They do have to win. The public does win, you know.
I know they do. I know. I bet with the public sometimes. I don't fade them every time.
Yeah, no,
Let's see. Any thoughts on these metrics, these analytical things you want to talk about, Chris? You want to move on to the games for next week? Let's kind of do a little breakdown of what we see on the games coming up. What do you think?
I think the obviously the number that jumps off the page is that 3.5, and I know that the old fashioned logic is that when a book moves a team to that, adds that half a point, so you win whatever you cover a field goal loss. That's generally like there's no doubt that's the trap bet, right? Is it trying to entice the public into taking that team? I'm curious to see, and if you're doing it in real time on BetGadget, you can see what that line opened at. I wonder how many of those lines opened +2 or +3 and were moved to +3.5 because the book had sharp action on the other side. Curious, something I'll follow up with afterwards. But
let me see if
it's definitely interesting.
Let's see. I need to bounce back down. So -3.5. I picked on the games. The games were here. This one actually, here's the opening lines. Here's the 8 games it captured, right? So Atlanta didn't move, right? No line movement. So no line movement the first one. The second one didn't move. The third one didn't move. The fourth one moved. Kansas City went from 2.5 to 3.5 against Jacksonville, which being a local, I thought Kansas City was a trap game, so I didn't touch it. This one down here actually went 10 at Cleveland. Actually, this was a reverse line movement as well, wasn't it? It went from 4 down to 3.5 at 36% of the split. You see that one? So we've got what, two of them out of so far. This one went as well. That's 3. This one moves 4. So 4 out of 8 moves, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of them in the direction that I'm interested in. If it goes from -4 to -3.5, I don't know that that's as enticing to people as if it goes from -2 to -3.5.
Exactly. Here's the thing, too. We capture the numbers when the line opens. How many times do you see the line open at some number and 10 minutes later it moves and never moves again for the rest of the week, right? That's not really a line movement to me. And I see it all the time. I've gone to websites where I do the history of the line movement, and it'll literally say the line came out at 3, it went to 3.5, 5 minutes later, it never moved for 7 days. That's not line movement.
The other thing is too with that first batch of movement. So I was just reading something about this today. It's a book called The Logic of Sports Betting. I think it's by a guy named Ed Miller. I'll get you the name for real by the end of the podcast. And he has a very good point in that those initial bets from when the line first comes out on Sunday night, the limits are so low that it's not really a tremendous amount of money that's going into those. It's really the following couple days by Wednesday that the limits increase and the people who are actually pros can get down a large enough bet that it's enticing. A pro doesn't care to bet $200 or even $1,000 in a line that just opened. So sometimes that very, very initial line movement is not particularly valuable.
That's interesting. Actually, I should throw a little nugget about Chris. We were talking to Chris last night. You live in Jersey, right? You were talking about last night about how Jersey has like probably the betting capital is kind of the way I took it. You said everybody in Jersey loves to bet on sports and just bet in general, right? So you must know some of the sharps.
Yeah, mine is Vegas. I call it the non-Vegas betting capital of America. I'm sure people from New York, as always, will chime in and say, "Oh no, Manhattan." Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, let's look at the games coming up this week really quick. Then we'll get to NHL, which is your sport, which I'm excited to talk to you about. Let's see here. So this week, let's just kind of do a really quick run through. Kansas City plays tomorrow night. They're playing local. We got our chairman sitting here. He's out the man on the chair across the room. He's going to the game tomorrow night, I think.
Tim, go to 2.
So let's see here. We've got Kansas City as a 10-point favorite opening. It's gone to 10.5 with 57% of the split. The bet's on Kansas City, which means it's a forward line movement. 33% of the money, which is interesting. But yet the Passan model predicts this game's going to be about a 2 to 3 point difference. I look at this. Actually, I guess I should probably pick the right model before we even say too much more, right? Let me take the model I've been kind of playing with. I'm not religious on this model. This model says basically Kansas City's got about a 16% predictive confidence, higher predictive confidence. And you can see I've got a whole bunch of data in here based on, I really kind of been hammering the team stats, trying to focus on that as much as the betting lines. Actually, it's funny because Kansas City's got a negative 39% home win percentage because we're only 5 games in and they lost to Detroit week 1. So they're 1-1. So they don't get a lot of credit for their home win percentage, which is actually a negative. That's interesting. Denver's not got anything going for it. I'll talk about an ugly team, man. They are ugly to watch. So I don't know. I would say this is probably a no bet for me. You have any thoughts, guys?
I'm kind of with you.
Same.
On that.
I 10 points in NFL is just too many points unless you're going to buy the dog. And I'm not buying Denver on the road in Kansas City, the Super Bowl champs. I'm just going to watch the game, watch my fantasy players, and drink a beer. Let's see. October 15th, Sunday. Baltimore is at -4.5 open. They're going to 4.5. You got Tennessee. I would take Tennessee. My model doesn't agree with me, but man, Tennessee is tough at home. They're well coached. They're disciplined. Passan says they'll cover by 0.5 point. Probably another no bet for me. You got Baltimore at 23%. No line movement. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Any thoughts?
I'm a no bet on this. I'm pulling up a model that I've been going with for NFL, which hasn't been particularly successful, but it can at least pinpoint me to a bet. I am also a no-go on this, but I'm the public with my knowledge. If I just look at this game, I'm on part of the 77% of the bets on Tennessee. Not as a for all the reasons you stated. I think that's a favorite. That's almost like that line should be reversed. I feel like Tennessee maybe should be favored, but it's a no bet for me at this point.
It is me too. By the way, I have a question for you. You're up in the New York area. Are you a Jets fan or a Giants fan?
I'm a Giants fan.
Interesting. I thought you'd be a Jets fan. That's what I was going to guess, but
yeah,
it's a tough year for you being a Giants fan, bro. Jesus.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. Yeah, I have extraordinarily low expectations. I will say with Jets and Giants, though, it's not like you loathe one. Like I generally, most adults root for both teams, or at least I do.
Yeah. I can see that. Let's go to the next game. Miami, Carolina. Carolina's a bad team. They're a young team, good staff. Man, that line has gone from 10.5 to 13.5. 88% of the money. In baseball, I've learned when you get up to about 80 to 90% of the split, it has a pretty good result. I've noticed that the analytics show that once you get about 85 to 95% of the split, they tend to do pretty well in terms of results. Of course, you usually pay for it on baseball at minus 300 or 400, right, on the money line. But here it's gone from 10.5 to 13.5. People are hammering Miami moving the line. The Passan model says they're going to beat them 34 to 18. That's a bet I might throw a unit on it, but I probably wouldn't get so overly excited. Again, that's a lot of points. There's a lot of parity in the NFL. What do you think?
So far on the NFL, every time I look at this, I come up with the same thing. I'm worried about it's a no bet. I think, because of the parity in it. So it's kind of trying to figure that out. I look at this right now with Miami at minus 800 on the money line.
Mm-hmm.
That's brutal.
Yeah, I couldn't do it unless you're going to take two or three heavy favorites and try to get even money on it. And then you're doing a parlay, and then those are dangerous. That's just not a path I want to be on.
Yeah, that's why I could kind of pass.
What do you think, Chris? Any thoughts?
I got Miami minus 11.5, and I don't like them at minus 13.5. But that was whatever. That's one of the ways I use the tools. If it gets flagged early in the week for some interesting line movement, I'll take a look at some of the market making books and whatever. Hopefully, I can get a couple points. If you can get a couple points in the NFL, you have made a successful bet.
Honestly, for me, bro, I look at the difference, the delta between the predictive confidence. This one's got plus 28. So that's what I usually do. Actually, matter of fact, I'll even sort this by the difference. We'll do it that way, and I'll make sure I skip over the ones we see. Let's just see what the highest probability games are. There's the Jets. The Jets are bad, but man, their defense is good. I don't know if I would touch this one either. This one's got what, a 35% difference? You got any money on the Jets? You're a local. You should have a little bit of a breakdown on this game.
I actually do like the Jets here, only because I think Philly is one of those teams who's I've actually watched them play a lot this year. I think their numbers look a lot better than they are. I think it's a touchdown at home. I find the Jets compelling in this spot, and I also, the public doesn't, which I always generally tend to like.
Exactly, I love that too. When I like a team and the public's on the other side, I'm with you, man. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
That's the highest one. We just talked about. Well, we didn't talk about Indianapolis. I would not touch this Indianapolis, Jacksonville. Everybody's high on Jacksonville right now. This model's screaming Indianapolis, and even the line's gone from 6 to 4 on Jacksonville at 13. We got reverse line movement here, actually, don't we? Jacksonville started at 6, has gone down to 4 at 13% of the split. That's insane. It looks like there's big money on Jacksonville, but man, I don't know. I don't know if I would touch that game. You guys have anything? I think we're just going to ignore that game. Here's your team. Ooh, Buffalo on the road. Looks like Sac City to me, but I don't know, man. At some point, the Giants are going to show up and basically not give up a sack and surprise the hell out of people, and everybody's going to go, "What happened?" It happens in NFL every week, right? Somebody shows up and just blindsides somebody every time.
I will say generally, if there's a anything over plus 500 in the NFL on a money line, I'm not saying I'm going to auto bet it, but it's going to get my attention because that's a lot. That's a massive.
It is.
Yep.
The EV on that and a game as tight as the NFL is almost like it gets my attention. I'm not saying bet the Giants money line by all means, but it will draw my eye to it to look deeper into it.
Mm-hmm. I like Buffalo. I think they'll win, but I think it could be a lot closer. I don't think I would bet that. I just don't know what I would do with that game. We got the Miami game we talked about. Let's see if there's any other games. Let's skip a couple of these games. Let's get in some primetime games. Tampa-Detroit's an interesting game to me. I feel like Detroit's a really good team, a really well-coached team, a really sound team, every aspect of the game. And that's going from 2.5 to 3, but it's forward line movement. My model's got a 26% difference. The -3 is dangerous, though. We were talking about the analytics show the +3 is kind of that range where you start to, if it was -3.5, I'd probably be much more excited about it and buy 0.5 point. Let's see. So I'm going to skip that one. Got our fire on this one. This one shows reverse. Our little flame over here showing reverse line movement. So you got Cincinnati, which Passan model is all over Seattle, but it also looks at the stats from previous games. It's not going to be as credible like it would be after months of baseball, right? So I don't know. I would not bet Cincinnati. That team is ugly. I wouldn't bet Seattle on the road going from West Coast to East Coast either. Let's see. San Francisco. Wow, look at this line movement. I have not looked at the lines yet this week, so I'm kind of like getting my first glimpse at them. What do you think of that one? 2.5 to 7.
This is one where I actually watched this one closely, and because my biggest position last week was a San Francisco. I really wanted San Francisco -3, and I ended up getting it on Profit Exchange. Which I don't think you guys have. Do you guys have access to an exchange in Kansas City where you can sort of name your price and see if people pick it up?
No.
Whatever.
You know what,
That was it.
me on that. Go ahead.
No. You go. Say what you were going to say.
Actually, you know what I did in this game? San Francisco was -3.5 at Dallas, and I was sitting at home. That was my favorite game of the week as well. And I wanted to hit San Francisco really hard. We're talking like 4, 5, 6 units, which is kind of the high end for me, right? And I was sitting there. I was like, man, I don't want to buy the 0.5 point, but I'm going to live bet it. I'm hoping the game like Dallas goes down, kicks a field goal, the live bet drops to 3 or 2.5. I never could catch the line. I just watched the line go up and up and up and up and up. And I finally turned on a movie. I was not happy with myself.
Yeah, and here I have San Francisco at -5.5, and I took them begrudgingly. But that 2.5 was available. I think there's 7 bettors in the United States that picked them up at 2.5. That was there for a millisecond.
Yeah, that's. I mean, San Francisco is definitely the best looking team right now. I honestly, the only way I would touch San Francisco, I mean, I would touch them a lot of times, but on this bet, I'd go, man, if I could get this team at like a teaser, which I don't do teasers until really late in the year typically. And I don't do a lot of them, but you get late in the year where teams basically, almost playing for the first pick in the draft, trying to get a quarterback, and they're not really they're playing scrubs. You kind of know that late in the year, kind of who's going to win certain games. You can sometimes pull a teaser off. And I've done pretty well at it, but this game, if I was going to tease that, God, you'd have to take San Francisco -1. God, what other game would you even tease it with? I don't even, I wouldn't touch Philly, not on the road there. I don't even know if there's a second game to even do a teaser. Let's look. The Rams, Arizona, wouldn't do that one. That's a conference game. They'll scare the hell out of me. Dallas -2 at the Chargers. Actually, the Chargers home +2. I love that bet. I like this bet a lot. Even though the reverse line movement's on Dallas. Of course, right now, the NFL thing is when the value goes down, people start getting down on a team. They tend to play well, and the value shifts on you, right? You got to be smart about that. Week to week is a huge difference. You have any thoughts on the Dallas Chargers game?
I have my thoughts. I don't know. I think the line's right. I think that's a really solid line.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Interesting. New England, Vegas. I kind of like this Vegas one -3 a lot with a reverse line movement. A team that won last week. 2 really bad teams, but New England is really, really looking bad this year right now. Of course, NFL there's parity. Wouldn't surprise me. Belichick pulls out a master game plan and beats them because they're not exact. Las Vegas is not exactly great either. So,
but a game like that, how much of that line move, that 1.5 to +1.5 to +3 is a substantial difference. How much of that is based on how bad the performance of New England was last week? So whenever teams are coming off a blowout loss that are quasi-competent, it's another game I'll take a look at. But the way this is moving, I'm almost tempted to wait and maybe get a half point.
You're thinking New England?
Yeah, only because of they're coming off a blowout. I don't know that. I think these are 2 very evenly matched bad teams, and I take a 3.5 points in that scenario, right?
Yeah, I can't argue that. I cannot argue with you at all. It's probably a game I would not touch. I might live bet it in the second half and get a feel for it, but again, it may run away from me. I may never get on it anyway. Let's see. Are there any other games? Maybe we should keep moving. Let's get to hockey. That's your love anyway, isn't it? Betting hockey?
I don't know. It's my love. I think it's a lot easier than a market that's so tight like the NFL.
And we've got a live question coming in too.
Oh, we do?
That we'll take before we jump to NHL.
What's the question?
So Griffin's joining us with a live call-in.
Oh, cool.
Hello.
And so we're
You guys hear me?
Our new technology.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
There he is.
Hey, there
Yeah.
he is. Welcome, Griffin. Yeah, I can't hear you. Are you muted?
Somebody muted him, I think.
Can you hear me now?
There you
Yeah,
are.
there you go.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. So I've been watching you guys through the last 8 episodes and whatnot, and I'm new to a lot of this. You guys bet a lot of money lines, and like I know on DraftKings, I can look up parlays, over unders. Do you guys find a benefit in doing just money lines versus over unders, parlays, stuff like that?
That's a good question. Honestly, these guys know that I did not bet baseball until this year. I bet playoffs and things when I go to the games to make it interesting, but I never really tried to build a bankroll. And so what I did is I started off actually the thing about baseball, and somebody told me like a long time ago, when you're betting baseball, never fall for the spread, right? Because there's so many, like I think it was 30% of the games end up in a 1 point difference or something. So that unless you're getting +1.5 at a good value, don't ever take the spread. Over unders, we have people on our tool, on our platform that are religious about over unders, and they're very good at it, and they have umpire stats and things like that. I like to focus on the money line. And so the reason I guess to answer your question, I started off betting favorites with my model, which if you ever watch kind of the daily videos, and I kind of flipped the script from the favorites to the dogs I think about middle of July, and I just crushed it. And the model was working, the trends were consistent, and I was just riding it until it stopped, and it worked all the way up pretty much to the last 3 days of the year. Once they kind of started putting players on the bench and the rookies were coming up, and there was too many variables, the model didn't seem to work as well. But honestly, bro, I love the dogs. I love the money line, and I'm planning on doing the exact same thing on hockey, because hockey, as I read the other day or a couple weeks ago, what is it, Chris? Like 43 or 44% of the hockey games.
Yeah, it's like low 40s. You'll see dogs hit, and that's the thing too, Griffin. It's really sport dependent. Like generally, football and basketball are going to be spread sports. Baseball and hockey are going to be money line sports. But like, there's no benefit one over the other. Anywhere there's an edge is where it's a good bet. And like, even when you start getting off of the main markets and you start looking at first half or first period totals or whatever, the less off of that main market you get, the softer it is. So like, whatever, it doesn't matter. If there's an edge on the spread or if there's an edge on the money line, it's an edge. You take it.
Gotcha. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm kind of new to it.
What sport do you like to bet on, Griffin? What's your favorite sport?
I like to bet, some NFL every now and then. But generally, I'm pretty dumb. It's all parlay stuff.
It seems like. Yeah. Sorry, we have a little delay, so I'm not trying to talk over you. Just a small delay.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, NFL, I bet spreads. I don't like the money line because you can see when I was looking at NFL a few minutes ago, you're paying -400, -500 on the favorites, the dogs. You get the right team. Like I like that San Diego, or I should say LA Chargers now, home bet at +2, but is it really enough, plus money to really make it attractive? I don't know. Something I'll have to think about.
Yeah, I originally started looking at it from the money line perspective as well, but I don't like the cost of those bets with that -100 and the stats coming out now between that 3 to 3.5 point spread right there. Really, those games seems to be much more compelling to look at it from that perspective.
I agree with you. I think 3 to 3.5 or less is probably going to come out every.
The money line, which I started with, I wound up just my head spinning. It's just not working for me.
Mm-hmm. What other questions do you have? Any other questions?
Oh, that was really it. I just was watching and kind of looking at a few things.
No, that's fine. I appreciate the questions, man. You can ask questions as much as you want. We're just kind of sitting here, kind of winging it, going through our list of questions and kind of chatting up with Chris. Chris is one of our. Actually, while we're kind of taking a moment, Chris, kind of talk about kind of your experience, I guess. We haven't done this yet because we met you through Bet Gadget, right? We kind of built this tool and we met you through that. And maybe just for a minute while Griffin's here and everybody's sitting here, why don't you tell us kind of how you kind of found out about Bet Gadget, kind of what you learned by using it, and kind of your experience.
Sure. I actually don't. I'm going to guess I found. It's weird because I go to just as not part of my routine. I'll check out like the Reddit subreddit Sportsbook. Really, I'm not being pompous or whatever. A lot of that, like, people are out there like shit posting. Like, it's really more for a laugh. But I found some good resources from time to time, and this was one of them. And whatever. This is just like Griffin. I started like you. Like, I really didn't know much. I knew whatever stuff that you learn from cultural references, and like a lot of people. When I wanted to learn more about betting, my first stop was like Action, like the Action Network. And whatever. Like I learned a little bit about what their business model is, and so long as they use affiliate marketing, it's like it's a little bit of a red flag. And then whatever I start learning about market efficiency and partial gain derivatives, whatever, your like knowledge base expands, and whatever. Somewhere in that process, I ended up at BetGadget, which kind of was a convergence of all of these different principles. Because you have some tools that are for, I would traditionally do what you would call like a top-down bet, where I'm just looking for the softest line. But you also have the ability to do the bottom-up approach with BetGadget, where you're going to do a statistical model, particularly later in the seasons with a larger sample set, and you could do that. The reverse, like the bottom-up approach, where you have your own number and you're comparing your own number against the deficiencies in the market, which to me is a way greater task than the market approach, because I don't, whatever. I feel like it's unfair. It's like not to take anything away from us, but there's syndicates with guys from MIT crunching numbers, and it's us versus that. I feel like the deck is a little stacked against us in some regard. That doesn't mean you can't get an edge, so yeah. Anyway, that's how we ended up here. Short version.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, guys, but I do have to cut off for a little while.
No, you're fine, man.
Thanks,
You're fine. Chris.
Appreciate the question.
Yeah, I'm in your Discord. I follow your stuff, so I'll catch you guys next week.
What's the username?
Do what?
What's your username on Discord?
It would be GPub
GPub
2014.
Okay. I'll give you a shout out next time we're on there. We're on there every day, but I mean, I don't notice all the names. We'll definitely give you a shout out, bro.
Sounds good. You guys have a good night. Thank you very much.
All right, you too. Thanks, Rip.
Yep. All right, let's jump. How much time do we have? How are we doing on time? Let's take
Well,
a time check.
we got about 20 minutes.
Good. Let's get into Chris's favorite topic, I think, which is hockey.
NHL.
So, Chris, I want to do a little experiment with you. I have a blank slate of analytics.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start building a couple analytical models for fun. Not models, actually analytical models. And we're going to basically kind of see how I'm going to just see how you would do this, because you're an NHL guy. I don't really watch a lot of hockey. A little bit. I've been to Capitals games a couple times, and I watch it a little bit here and there. So I'm going to do, let's find a gadget. So first question, I'm going to let you drive. Where do you want to start? Spreads, over-unders, money line? Where would you start?
All right. Well, I threw together one, so let me like cheat a little bit and look at mine.
This is not a model; it's more analytics. I'll give you an example if you want to see what I'm.
Oh, I understand. So I get where you're going.
It's like a single gadget kind of model.
Yeah, can you pull up the ones that you have from MLB?
Sure, I'll pull up.
Give me a little cheat sheet. Yeah.
Yeah. So here, So like I have all these ranges, right? I have the ERA ranges for like pitcher stats. I got the WHIP, as you hear me talk about the money line and splits and all the different kind of betting metrics.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Let's go back to NHL. I would say I would never bet NHL. The little bit I know about NHL, I would probably never bet the spread. I just don't like spreads on 1.5. Right? I would probably be betting money line. I'd probably be betting dogs.
So the first thing I would do is I would look at your head's in the right place. I would look at money line, and I wouldn't even look at movement or a thing. I'm just going to assign a value for the different. Basically the different spread amounts. So like the first one I have that extreme scenario of like minus 1,000 to minus 300. I don't really ever I'm not really going to take a minus 300. So I want that to be prohibitive enough where I'm not going to get a pick on a minus 300 game.
Watch this. I'm going to put NHL. I'm going to put money line.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'll just do this. Actually, I better put at, let's say, minus 300 to minus 1,000. And I'm just going to save it. I'm going to go do another one. What the results were for that for one day. If there's any games to even make that range. Oh, I put it in the wrong.
I don't think you can. You might have there's one tonight. I think the Bruins closed at minus 350. And I think they're actually losing right now.
Sorry.
That was tonight, and so we don't know if it worked better or not.
Yeah, we
Now,
won't
I don't
tell
know
tomorrow. Oh shit!
if you could do this currently, but the classic analytic, like the one that, like the 101 betting model, is going to be a visitor who's favored in any capacity on 3 to 4 days rest.
Yeah.
I don't know that we could do that yet.
Let's just build. We'll do. Let's do this again in another show very soon. We'll get into some modeling. We'll make this really good. Like right now, I just want to kind of focus. Let's just do a couple other ones. I'm going to jump around a little bit with you. So let me go back here. Let's make another model. I'm going to make this one. Like this is, let's say home away favorite underdogs. I always like to do these. Let's just get the records of teams that are favorites that are away and call that NHL favorite away. What I'm doing is I'm kind of showing how I kind of start to do this.
You're doing you're doing at base level, which is probably far more valuable than complex level. But yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah. This is for analytics. What I do is and actually I'll show you what I do is I build these out and I start to see some trends. I kind of get a feel for how I want to populate the weights or the percentages across my model based on what I'm kind of seeing. Sometimes that's flawed because things change, obviously, right? But let me put this in the analytics group. Go back to analyze. So I've now got that, which home away favorites. I guess I should put in the date range. It's not. Well, this is Tuesday, Wednesday. And again, we just turned on betting or the NHL yesterday. So I got to make sure this is actually working, but it doesn't seem to because away favorites had to do something yesterday, right? Anyway, I'll keep going for the sake
You
of
might not have been any away favorites yesterday, actually. There was only 3 games. Well, it's possible. There's only 3 games. Let me see.
Well, let's do NHL home favorites. We'll definitely find out the answer really quickly.
There must have been one of the 2. No question about that. Let's see.
Okay, NFL home favorites. We'll go back down to the money line range. We'll hit this gadget. Let's do what I say, home favorites.
There were actually no away favorites yesterday. All the favorites were dogs.
That makes me feel a lot better. I'll put this in the analytics group. Go back to analyze page, and boom, there we go. 1-0.
Nice.
Right.
So I'm just going to do one more actually, and then we're going to jump to the next one. Let's go back here, hit new. This is kind of how we build all the different analytical kind of dashboard stuff. I'm kind of showing, kind of demonstrating kind of how we build analytics with the tool, and we'll get into some other things quickly. So games, let's go back to new. Let's go make another one and make this one. I'm going to do the opposite of this. I'm going to do the away underdog, and then we'll kind of talk about away underdog. Put that in the analytical group. I don't really need the over under for my targets. I'm going to close that out, go back to analyze, and we should have 2 more games. Home favorites, away underdogs. I feel like we're missing a game. What games do we have here? We got the Tampa Nashville game.
You should only have 3 games in. There's only been 3 games that have been completed.
So we need home.
But you're showing only 1. I see what you're saying. Oh yeah, you're showing 2. Okay.
We always have a couple bugs when we start a sport. There's always like 1 or 2 games that get missed the first couple of days of the games, right? We always have to kind of figure out when we're pulling the API or we're scraping the information off the internet. We always kind of learn, hey, what was the one in NFL? NFL, we had a problem with Jacksonville. We thought it was JAC, how the team actually identified it was JAX, right? Because the way it was set up, and so there was a bug, and we have to fix these things. So anyway, what was the last one here, Brian? We wanted to build NHL, and it was basically what was that one?
Can you do a flip? Is that basic enough for analytics? Can you do a team that started as a small favorite and ended up as a dog?
Yeah. I
know that's something like in baseball.
I have to build a model to do it, but I'll do that for you here in a minute. So
all right.
I'm going to do this.
I don't quite get your line between analytics and model. The line can be blurred at some places, perhaps, or maybe I just don't comprehend it.
No, that's fine. Let's build a model doing exactly what you said. So now I'm going to build in that. Those were kind of just an example. And I basically build all kinds of these little single gadget analytical models, so I get a whole screen of information, right? So you wanted to see NHL model where they start off as a dog and end up as a favorite, right?
Yeah, and what I don't want to complicate a ham sandwich here, but what I would draw my attention to at that point maybe would be the puck line,
Okay. Let me see. If
because I think you're going to have some pretty decent value on a flip puck line.
So I'll need to know the money line, and need to know the split, the range. And I need to I'm trying to think of which gadgets I want to do here. So I want to basically the change.
Change from open. Yes.
Yeah, I need that one. I need to also probably the change direction, which maybe I don't need to change direction. I'm trying to think about this for a second. If I'm going to go from negative, let's say 200 to plus one, let's say negative 100 to plus 100, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to get to.
Exactly.
Money. Okay. So let's do this. Let's say if they started off here, this may actually require the ability to actually modify the tool, because I have not done this yet. So I'm kind of thinking this. You kind of gave me a good challenge. I think what I need to do is be able to add 2 gadgets with a money move amount. Well, not move amount, the money line, I should say, over here. So basically, let's say they start off as a negative 200 to 0. We give that a point. And if it goes from 0 to, let's say, 200 in the positive side, let's actually make this 100 because I have better values. Or I'll say 100. Then put this one at 100. This probably isn't going to work. But then the change direction has to be really big to capture this. So let's see here. Percentage of amount. The money line we say actually. Hold on.
I'm sorry. This was a terrible idea to bring up in real time.
No, it's fine because you're actually making me try to make the tool do something I haven't tried to do with it. But you get the point. I'll tell you what. I will take a note of this. I will go back. We will hammer through it, and I will figure out how to make it work, and I will share the model with you. We'll review it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good follow-up.
I'm going to a little bit of down a rabbit hole. I know we can do it. I mean, look at the models we've done for baseball. I mean, just the modeling piece. And actually, what I want to show you, what I really wanted to show you, but I don't have a time because we only have an hour, and I want to change some dates really quickly. This is what I really wanted to show, because I think this is really the power of what we do. I was making NFL models, which this is going to update in a second. My internet's not, we're streaming, so it's a little bit slow, right? What I did, Chris and Brian, I basically went out and made a home plus away model, nothing else, right? And then I went in and said, okay, I want to add the team stats, and I'll show you. I basically went in here and there's nothing more than what I just said. Home win percentage, add some weights across all the different, 10% kind of ranges. Away, the same thing. And I kind of got the key team stats. That's not really the point I'm trying to make, but I'll show you what the key point is here. Let me go back to the analyze page, get back to models. And what I did is I kept adding more gadgets to my model. So I went from home and away to home and away plus team stats, plus then the spreads, and then I added the splits, and I added the spread change direction. And you can see what I was doing. As I got further and further, my percentages started going up to a point where I got too many gadgets and it started going back down. And so I go to model 2 and I took out some of my gadgets, and look what happened. I went to 75%. This model actually was doing great after 2 weeks, but the sample size was too small. And then the 3rd and 4th week, I didn't really do well, but actually after 5 weeks, look, 75% on money line, which it should be, but plus 18 units, that's pretty impressive. But on the spreads, I wouldn't get excited about that. So you can
see, I think you're selling yourself short on the spreads, because, for example, if I use this model, I promise you I'm going to beat most of those spreads.
Well,
so I wonder.
I don't pick every game either, right?
With let's say I beat. How many of those games were decided by a point or two? That depending on when the time of your bet was, you actually might have covered the spread, right? Because that's based on the closing line. So that might be better than you think. I'm suggesting.
No, you're right. Let me click on this. Let's go see some of the games. There's 39 games, so it's going to take a minute because we're streaming. But the point of it is I like to take a lot of different gadgets, put them into different models and compare models and start to see what models are working and why, and have different time. With baseball, I'll do like 2-week snapshots, 2-month snapshots, different weights within the model. So this is the first show where we really kind of got really deeper into the modeling, which I'd like to do more of, like more of a roundtable modeling kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Right? We've been talking about that. So anyway, here's to answer your question, right? Look at these. I mean, so we basically were talking about basically the spreads, lost, but they lost by 23.
That point wouldn't have done it there. That's a bad example of the point I was trying.
Yeah. I'm just kind of skimming through here, but let's see here. This model, honestly, on the close games did not exactly crush it. This one at 1.5 did what? Plus 1.5. I love plus 1.5 games. Cleveland. I love +1, +2 games at home, right? But you can kind of see through this. And I don't want to go quite down the rabbit hole. We're going to definitely prep. We're going to definitely jump into NHL. We're going to really get some. I'll build a whole bunch of analytics. I'll probably catch you offline. We'll build some models collaboratively, and we'll come back and we'll revisit this. How's that? For 50
I
minutes.
think that sounds
too much. Not enough time. What else do we have on the
100%.
agenda, by the way? I want to make sure we kind of stay with. I get smacked if I go over my time, and I got about 6 minutes.
The winner of the model of the week?
The model of the week, which, by the way, we did our first NFL,
NFL.
which actually we should probably do NHL at some point soon. But for NFL, a guy named Nick Henley, which honestly I need to see what his model was because I've shared a lot of models with the guy, but Nick actually won the NFL model of the week.
And congratulations, Nick.
By the way, Chris, if we would have stuck with baseball, you would have won baseball for the second week in a row.
Yeah, I saw that, but that's all right. I want Nick Henley to enjoy his victory for model of the week.
Yeah, so our marketing SME will get with him and send him as a payment of $50 for that, which is just a little teaser to kind of keep the guy modeling and predicting and doing what we do. NHL, we talked about. Well, let's talk about NHL. What's kind of the next step there? We kind of talked about the modeling piece of it. Is there anything else that we want to talk about for NHL?
Well, I mean, I think you've covered a number of items there. The ability for if you guys build some more models and come back and talk about that, I think that's key for the next step with NHL.
I think what I'm learning now, actually, as we do this, was like what our 8th episode is. When I'm going to basically get into a rabbit hole of going down the model path, I need to frame it with some pre-work so I can walk it through versus kind of type it up. But honestly, I mean, Chris knows, and you have a lot. I saw some feedback from Tim today about all your ideas around kind of how to build better models in NHL based on days off. And maybe you want to talk about that for a minute, kind of how you like to look at NHL.
Yeah, well, you know what I think would be very valuable? And I know we're short on time, so I'll say this in 3 sentences. I would, if you were to build a model that was going to target me to a game where you saw value, there's so many little weird quirks to NHL. I would take you through what I would do with that pick, like whether it be through a puck line, or if there was a dog that you tagged, maybe there's value in the reverse puck line. With the totals, first period totals are a really big spot where people catch value. So it's almost like there's a 201 to the 101, but rest. And then we got to consider how to treat the goalie. Part of me is wondering if it's more effective to treat the goalie as you would a pitcher in baseball, because goalie rotation is a lot more common now than it used to be. You know, I don't know that would be something that was necessary. So there's a number of nuanced things that I think can gain some value in the market, but it kind of starts with the meat and potatoes like you were just doing. So there's so many places we can go with this.
I think what I'd like to do, if you're willing to do it, is I'd like to collaborate, go offline, build some analytics, build some NHL models kind of collaboratively. We can share them, edit them, whatever. Come back, do a roundtable, and let the community kind of tell us what they agree and don't agree with, and see what kind of feedback we get. What do you think? Is that fair?
I'm always willing to spend more time gambling. So sold. Absolutely.
I 100%.
Way to be predictable, Chris. Thank you.
When I get down the rabbit hole, you got to learn to hit me on the head with this.
Yeah, I'll bring out the hammer of Thor again.
Yeah, you need to hit me in the back of the head. Go, dude, you're going down the rabbit hole. Get out of the rabbit hole.
But, you know, sometimes I want to see if you can climb your way out of the rabbit hole, because is that a real rabbit hole?
I'm 6'4", and I don't think I could get out of that rabbit hole. I could tell that was going to be like a 2-hour exercise. And Tim was going to give me about 5 more minutes before he was going to smack me with that thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So that gadget updates, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you guys a teaser. So we have a new UI, and this is just us playing with it, but I really want to pop over and show the analyze page. It's going to be cleaner. It's going to be, but you can kind of start to see the look and feels more professional, polished, kind of looks more, less prototypey beta version. The other thing I will tell you, and I said this on the last show, is the UX, the usability of building models is going to get dramatically better in the next 2 months. We have our UX expert. He's out of Boston. We're going to make that because it's pretty hard to model right now, because you have to understand how to pick the right gadgets, think about how many points per gadget. We've talked about this, right? So we don't want to make it so easy everybody can build a model and there's no skill involved, but we are making improvements. Like, it's kind of what I want to point out is we're starting to build some pretty cool optics. The viewing or the UI is just going to get cleaner and better.
Yep, it's looking better and better. I've learned a ton, and this is even nicer. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. What else you want to talk about, Brian?
Well, I think we're getting close to the end of our allotment for today for this session. So let's what did we learn today?
Not to go down the rabbit hole.
All right, I think we definitely found that out. Chris is going to be a major contributor to the NHL world and Bet Gadget model building, so we're looking forward to that piece of it. We have more podcasts coming up, and we would definitely like to have more of our community members join us with those live questions. Like, thanks tonight, Griff, for joining in, asking your question. And when we get out to the round table of looking at these things, come on and join us. If you get on the Riverside platform link that we publish all the time, and you're on a PC, you'll be able to hit the live button and join in. Type us a question, we can pull you in, and you can join in with us and ask those questions, because it's amazing how much information is exchanged in the community that improves everybody's betting and improves the tool and the things that we're doing. Everybody learns something every day from each other. It's really cool.
I love that part.
Yeah. No, please get active in the Discord. There's money to be made amongst us, amongst your peers. You know, get active in there, and I promise you will leave better off than you entered. At least I do. Whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great info.
I love the Discord. Actually, I look at a lot of Discords. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. We'll make that a discussion for the next show.
That'll be the next time. And right now, Chris, we want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your betting wisdom from New Jersey. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You're very welcome, man.
And we can't wait to have you back on and see what I'm looking forward to what you guys come up with on the NHA model side.
I'm excited.
That's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
So on that amazing set of notes today, I'd like to sign us off on this week's Beyond the Odds. Thank you very much. Hammer of Thor. And I broke it.
Oh,
that's
man.
okay.
See ya.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good night, Chris.